Is this the one? G'day guys, welcome to the next episode of the Two Red Chairs podcast. I'm Frank, this is Shane again. You've probably seen him from the first episode. Shane, we're going to have you chatting today about content.
Yes.
Shane wanted to talk about content in terms of Instagram and in Facebook or LinkedIn content or blogging, whatever it is, in terms of what the purpose is, yeah?
Yes, correct.
So let's dig into it. What's on your mind about it that we should chat about? And what I should probably just preface by saying, it's a Saturday night here in Sydney. We put the disco lights on tonight for this episode if you're watching here on YouTube. But yeah, fire away, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Frank. Really do appreciate it. I guess something I've been thinking a lot about lately is just, there's just such a robust and talented and amazing design community. And I guess sometimes you see the space, you see what's happening, and I guess I know we've discussed this before, you and I, just about how our content is very client focused.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff we're putting out is very much speaking as if we're talking to a prospective client.
Correct.
And then there's obviously a very different route within the community, which is developing content for your peers, for designers. And I find there's just this, I find that, I'm just cooking this.
No, that's fine. No, you can cook away. I mean, I think the train of thought that I think Shane's talking about is that we see a lot of designers that are a part of, especially the Instagram design community, that are putting up content for their fellow designer, which I think is fantastic because if you're sharing what you're learning and putting it out there in your own perspective, great. But if you're the designer that is struggling to find work and make ends meet and isn't positioning themselves as the expert, as they say, and you simply have an Instagram account that is creating content for your fellow designer, and not for your client, then I think Shane's thinking there's this huge disconnect. Like, why wouldn't you create that kind of content? And this was my train of thought when I first started G'day Frank, which is my business page. And when I discovered the kind of thriving design community on Instagram, I was like, wow, this is amazing. There's a heap of people, creating content here.
Yeah. And
my thoughts were like, well, what am I going to put up that makes sense for my business? And I was thinking, well, everyone says you need to communicate to your client. Let's, may as well talk to them. Why would I talk to a designer for? Because they're not the one that's going to hire me for work or make, me ends meet here. So let's create some content that does have some real creativity behind it, and it kind of flexes that in its own way, but have it oriented towards the client, not a designer. And that, to me, doesn't make sense. And I think that's where your head's at as well.
Pretty much.
There is a train of thought, though, that if you do create content for your fellow designer, clients could still pick that up. And that I've seen other people on Instagram still get work out of their Instagram content, even though it wasn't catered directly to a specific type of client, which I don't think is going to work for everybody, if you'd agree with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
it's very. I mean, you have to really think about your own position, what your purpose of your social media is, what the purpose of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like there's two greatly different results depending on the kind of content you put out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just the content you put out is only, if you are targeting clients, I feel like putting content out is only one piece of the puzzle. There are a lot of things that need to happen for the client to actually be delivered to that profile.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is my mindset. I didn't go into creating content on Instagram, consistently and daily at one stage, in the hope that a client would go, Frank, let's do this. I'm sold.
Without you did or didn't?
Didn't.
Okay.
Didn't expect that at all.
Okay.
Because I think it's one of those things that there's no one's going to just go, yes, I want to deal with you right now because, I've got everything I need to understand who you are and what you're about and what your process is, I think that person would still want to have a conversation. And people have reached out. It's never come to fruition of a project. And whether or not that's a whole nother issue of my onboarding process, I don't know. But there haven't been clients that have been the type of client I guess I would be looking to work with, I guess. So, I mean, my perspective was that if I'm creating this content, it would be for the case of a client to potentially, say, find me either through a referral or just haphazardly on Instagram or via Google, searching, for a designer on there and coming across my website. Because what happens generally when you find someone out, you generally go a bit of a deep dive. There's a
100%.
stalker in all of us, and you go for a bit of a deep dive now that everything's accessible, and if everything's public of what you're putting out there if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, your own website, Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, people are going to go hunting, especially if you're putting out those links.
So you're saying it's more of an outlet for you to showcase who you are and how you do business.
100%.
Okay.
I think that's it. It's not there with... I mean, even the content at the end of it doesn't really have much of a CTA, a call to action. I'm starting to do that now just to see if that makes any difference, because I kind of felt like it was more a case of brand building rather than actually selling something here. Like, of course. It was more like maybe an educational kind of eye-opener for a client that... obviously isn't in the realm of understanding of what it is I do. Like, you don't approach a plumber thinking that I know everything about plumbing. You go for them for that expertise, but you'd like to know what it is they're doing to fix it, so that if you have to explain it to your missus or whatever what's happened or whatever it is, you kind of would, I guess, like to know the general gist of what's going on. So especially if it's something that you think might only be a really quick job as a client, if I can show the broader scope of what it could actually do as an impact of what branding is.
Help them think about something that maybe they haven't thought about.
Correct, exactly.
And understand how deeply design can pivot their business.
Yeah, and now that designers are starting to wake up and realise that you kind of have a piece of the puzzle to grow a business, and needing to have some business acumen to be able to have a business conversation effectively, not just talk about, the aesthetics of design and why that colour means something. I don't go into a client meeting and go, this colour means, whatever the fuck it is.
There's so much talk about colours influence. I feel like colour can create an expectation.
That's a whole other conversation.
It is a whole other conversation. But
let's not go down, even though we've got a bajillion colours playing down below us here. But for you then, do you feel like designers are missing out or shooting themselves in the foot or going about it the wrong way? Or
I wouldn't go as far as saying that anyone's going about it the wrong way, because everyone's on their own journey. Everyone's doing what they feel's right. I guess a bit of a question I asked myself just recently. I've started to get quite a few more of my existing clients onto my Instagram page.
Yeah, okay.
And they're following me and engaging with my content, and it's really interesting. And I just thought to myself, is what I'm posting the kind of stuff that I would want my client to see? And I want to pose that question to any designer. The stuff that you're posting, do you think if your only viewership on your page was your clients and your clients alone, would you then change? Would you pivot your content? Would you change the content that you're putting out there?
Yeah, you're not going to shit on them or anything like that.
No, nothing like that.
But like, this is my thing, is that if you were to create content for your fellow designer, I mean, if it's tips and tricks on how to use Photoshop or something like that, like that's
harmless.
Yeah. But if it's like how to engage with a client in a certain way, or how to find clients, or all that kind of stuff that I'm kind of creating in the form of this G'day Design Life stuff, which is probably a good lead into why I split the two. And some people said, why didn't you just pivot your content on G'day Frank? And I was like, well, I've kind of established something and established a heap of content there. Plus my website's all geared towards an ecosystem for a client onboarding kind of process.
Yes.
So why would I just change just to make use of the organic kind of following that's growing from the design community on there, given that 95+% of people that follow the G'day Frank page are designers? I'm fine with that. People just learn through osmosis, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I mean, aesthetically or what's the word? Vanity-wise.
I would probably, just observing your page and knowing that all your content is client-centric, my observation would be, I feel like designers follow your page because they find value in the way you approach clients, and they would probably learn not about design from you, but almost learn how to communicate with clients, learn how to create content that has a call to action, that has the ability to inform clients of the service you provide. I would probably say that is why, even though, like you've told me a few times, you've stayed in your own lane, you're targeting clients, the content is not at all for designers, but so many designers are onboarded to your page because you're different with the way you think about it. And there's still, even though it's not for designers, there's still value for a designer to be around that type of content.
And where I was going before was, if you pumped your numbers up, let's say the following, because that vanity metric of a following can have gravitas for some particular clients. They may not be the clients you want to work with. They may be, who knows, but I've heard of instances where people weren't hired for a job because they didn't have a certain quota of following on their Instagram.
Yeah, really?
Which is crazy.
Wow.
For real? Yeah, or they did get hired because they did have such a big following. And
I've heard of that. I haven't heard the latter though.
Yeah. So it works in two different ways. So there could be a way where you create an account that just goes whooshka, like really fast, gets a big following, but you just use that to your advantage, where it's dormant, it's for a particular audience that's not your clients, to pump up that number, and then you could delete everything, and then you could pivot all your content to make
a way to think about it.
Make it client focused, and have that vanity metric there, and just kind of cheat the system in a way, which doesn't. I mean, if you go in for like brand deals or something like that, that's not going to look good because there's going to be zero engagement going forward once you pivot. But if a client's not really looking into the depth of it, and you're not looking to use that page as something for brand deals or whatever, or social proof, apart from just the main top line figures there, then that could be an interesting way. I wouldn't recommend it personally, but it'd be a sneaky way of going about it.
It'd probably boil down to, what is the purpose of your page? Are you creating content to develop a clientele, or do you have a bustling clientele already, and the page exists to contribute to the design community, or
like if you don't need to be flying clients, as you said, and all you want to do is create content that does help your fellow designer, that still becomes, to a particular client, that could be still admirable.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you can't create for your fellow designer at all. Like, there'd be merit to it in certain respects. I guess it's just how you go about doing so, and if it's just purely for the enjoyment factor. But I think probably in my head, and possibly you're saying yourself as well, is that would you not attach that to your business?
See, I've thought about that.
So if you had something completely different, just to, basically like I've done with G'day Design Life. I mean, there's a purpose to G'day Design Life in the long run there. But if you're going to just do it to help your fellow person, should that just be your own kind of personal account or something like that? Just
Absolutely.
So
separate from your business.
Separate from your business.
Well, if the purpose differs from the purpose of your business, then yes, absolutely.
It's an interesting thought.
It is. And that's, I've spoken to you in the past about how, all of my knowledge in sales and in developing a creative business, it's 0% applicable to a clientele that I'm trying to garner on Instagram on my profile. So you
could spin it in a different way. Kind of the whole sales strategic side of getting in the same way that you would garner But then it's sort of transparent. They go, okay, that's how Shane's lured me in, kind of thing.
Well, it's like it's if your business is branding, it's not sales.
Yeah.
So
if
I'm on my branding page talking about sales, two vastly different things, and I don't know. You got to be really careful. Like this is my contributing to sitting here on this podcast, doing digital events or whatever, and imparting knowledge to help creative businesses grow.
Yeah.
The kind of page that I have and the purpose for my page, it's not really appropriate to do that because I have a viewership on my own page that is my clientele, and it's not really. I mean, if you know how it is. You can't tell your clients how to grow their design business because they don't have a design business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No,
but
it would bring confusion to your business.
Yeah.
And the perception of your business. Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen people do it and execute it quite well where they help both.
Okay.
And Jacob Cassett, I've had on the show.
Creative.
From Just Creative. He's a perfect example of that. He helps both. And he still gains clients out of it. So it's not to say that it can't work. It's to say that...
Would you say it's a fine line?
It could be a fine line.
Okay.
Or it could take a business that has some clout already that doesn't really need to be worrying too much about
down on that level. Okay.
That kind of thing. Where you have prospective clients coming through, like Jacob was saying that he hasn't separated his email list, his email subscriber list. So it's still the same people seeing both. And the content that he puts out can be just as valuable for both parties. Like he's not slagging off clients or anything like that, or businesses. So if you're tactful in the way I think that you do it, it's possible. But I think probably a lot of designers might falter in that respect, where you get too carried away maybe of the limelight of being surrounded by a very thriving community and very supportive design community.
Well, I know I've thought it. If you to, I mean, obviously, it's almost like the design community is huddled together just because there's so much value that we can get.
And you feel inclined to give back.
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone puts out something that's great and you want to share it on your page, like for me, like I will only share people's content if it's of value to a prospective client.
Yeah.
And I feel shithouse that on G'day Frank's page that I don't share everybody's stuff. And even to the point where people that tag me and stuff, and I've said this to some people, said don't tag me on your stuff from my G'day Frank page because I'm going to untag myself.
Yeah.
So if someone looks at the tagged things, it's only a very select few things that I keep there where someone's mentioned me in their content, where it's kind of about what I do or what I offer and have on Instagram kind of thing, rather than people sharing their own carousel content of how to be a better designer and all that kind of stuff. And I'm tagged in there for no particular reason at all other than for me to see that post and like and comment and share it or whatever, which I'm not going to share it. Yeah. I'll share it from my G'day Design Life page here. That's what it's there for. That's what it's built for, so that I could cheer on other designers. That was the whole idea about it. So that's why I wanted to
give back.
Exactly. So if you wanted to give back and feel part of that community, then why not start something that is just yourself, maybe, as a second little outlet for yourself and do it that way? Or if you really don't give a shit about Instagram and not using it as part of your business per se, then, go for it kind of thing. And if you're not worried about clients sort of seeing that kind of content, each to their own, really.
Absolutely. I think back to Jacob, he's a really good example because he obviously has a very diverse offering of content.
Yeah.
So he'll share informational posts. Yep. He'll share actual downloadable content for use that designers would use. And he also shares client work.
Yep.
Which I've actually noticed a lot of designers have dropped off sharing any client work. And I'm a bit unsure about it. I'm not sure if it's a positive thing or a negative thing.
Yeah. My thing was always with content that if you're a designer, this is my own opinion and everybody's each their own in this, is that if you have social media, you use it to show who you are, what you can do, being your design work and your process and all that kind of stuff, what you know. So that way you show some of your thought process behind what it is you do. So you have some credibility or whatever it is. So
I
the
like
client
that. Yeah,
sees that you know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. And then the last part is to remain social on social media. So it's to connect with not just designers, if you connect with other designers, because that's a great thing to have, especially if you work for yourself, to have a design community that's all on the same page as you and it's relatable. That's where I thrive a lot on social media.
Having relatable, approachable content.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
But then using social to connect with other business owners, like reaching out and liking their content rather than just designers' content, to say, hey, I really like your, content here, or that photo, or that post, or your product or service or whatever. I'm really a big fan of this. And just be able to connect on that level, because at the end of the day, it's social media. And I think probably a lot of designers aren't doing this and taking that opportunity to do so, because everyone can send a direct message to the CEO of whatever kombucha company. It's crazy. So
I think something as well that I'm realizing is a possibility. Within the community, there's so many different people, so many different skill sets. There's so much on offer that I've found that there's probably a lot of opportunity to collaborate.
Yeah.
So Jared from Winart.
Yep.
Yeah, we recently connected, and it's interesting. Quite a lot of what he's doing. He's doing a lot of, I think he calls it fast-moving consumer goods.
Yep.
Is
FMCG.
his specialty? Yeah.
Yep.
And he also does a bit of signage work as well. And interestingly, he told me that that's like signage type work is the kind of work that he wants to get a bit more away from, to focus on what he specialises in.
Yep.
And we sort of spoke about how we could work together for me to help with some signage implementation to keep his clientele happy, but also that's his hands are away from it, so he can focus on building the side of the business that he specialises in. So look, there's opportunity within the community to collaborate.
Well, case in point as well, Shane and I are talking about it at the moment, too, in terms of collaborating maybe next year for
Absolutely.
work where, Shane's a killer salesman, and he's like, man, I don't have the time to design. And I'm like, okay, well, I got some time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting within your business, because you think about what your strengths are. So often as a designer, you think your strengths are to be designing, sitting down and designing. But just with how my business has been progressing, I've been in business for 12 months now. I'm realizing that every day that I'm sitting at the computer and not out on the road, that's a day where I've missed out on potential clients.
It's a crazy different mindset,
isn't it?
This man's head is just completely different to the rest of us.
It sounds so strange, but it's like
yeah.
And it's there's this balance, and it's like if I take on a big design project, I've got to be mindful that that's going to take so much of my time and take me away from look, let's throw a random figure. Let's say I do a design project for $1,000, $5,000, whatever, but it's going to take it's going to take this many days off my.
And that would be the same as well for Instagram content, though.
Oh, 100%. And I want to talk about this as well, because sometimes I find it hard to rationalize
the investment of
time. Because I mean, to create a post that isn't just a blur.
It takes a couple of hours.
It takes a couple of hours. It does. And no matter how you try and optimize your time and try and make that process more streamlined, good content takes time. There's no escaping it.
Yeah, putting out bullshit stuff really quickly, that's fine, just to fill the numbers. If you're only going to be doing that just to, put stuff out consistently and it's of no real value to anybody, then you just, that's white noise.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I think's admirable about you, man, because, I mean, I don't know how long it takes to bring the content together for these podcasts.
Takes some time.
It takes some time.
Takes some planning as well. Yeah.
I think people should follow the example that I've had various conversations with Frank about how he's learnt so much and been, gifted so much in the ways of knowledge and understanding of what it takes to be a designer and run your own business from the community, that you're putting these hours and time and effort back into giving back to the community, which I think is really awesome, man. So it's
Cheers. Pat in the back.
Yeah.
So I guess cheers. From the perspective of where you're at now, what is your game plan that you think you're going to do, let's say for 2020? Like, are you going to be investing as much time as into Instagram, or do you want to just try and ration it into a way that's sustainable and effective to your business, just to kind of keep up appearances and still keep it active, so that if a client does come along and see the stuff, then you're not just having something that's gone dead,
Well, okay, so I've only been on Instagram for, putting out Instagram on my business account for, I would probably say, 3 months. Yep. The first month and a half. No, I would probably say, sorry, probably about month and a half, 6 weeks.
Nearly daily.
Yeah. I was posting every day. Some posts took like 4 hours, and it's like, but I pushed through. I just made it happen, and it was completely taken out of my hands towards the end of the year. Yeah. I just got so busy with client work, and I didn't post for a month.
Yeah.
I've been trying a few different things, and all it is just, trial and error. What works best for you? Mm-hmm. Obviously, what works for me might not work for someone else.
Correct.
And yeah, as far as what my plan is for 2020, like to keep contributing, to keep creating content, I think a really awesome byproduct of creating content is that, there's a lot of ideas floating around in anyone's head. And when you sit down and write something, it really gives you clarity on what your own position is and what your own thoughts are on a certain topic. And, whether the content you're putting out is focused for clients or focused for designers, I think that byproduct of finding your own position is unanimous, no matter what the content is. So
yeah, like if you can create content that has your own 2 cents added to it, rather than just regurgitating quotes. Like, I've put out quotes, but you don't just say, quote, how about it?
Oh, yeah. I think the quote can mean something different.
Contextualized.
Correct. It can mean something different to you, to me.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're learning more stuff about your design business, being still young, and it's pretty much just as young as my own, but as you go along the way, you start realizing what it is your business is good for, what you're good for, how you can help others, what that impact is, all that kind of stuff, and you can share that so a client can see what that benefit is of what it is you offer, and you have a great mindset or relatability or personality. And that's why a big thing of I would encourage anyone listening to this that is scared of getting in front of a camera or behind a mic or writing something or in front of a camera to take a photo, whatever it is, try it.
Just try it.
Yeah, like I had for the last 2 feature Fridays for G'day Design Life. This was a while ago now, if you're listening and watching, because this is some banked up content here. But for a couple of the Feature Friday posts, people that featured were kind of very hesitant about it. And I approached them and said, would you want to contribute? Okay. And they're like, yeah, I'd be really into it. And then they start doing it. And they're like, I don't know if I'm good at this. Like, I don't know if I'd be good at this. I don't know why anyone would listen to this. And it's like, that's not the point. Like, everyone has something to offer. But I totally understand if you don't want to get in front of the camera or mic or whatever it is to do this. So don't pressure yourself. If you're not into the idea of it, and the whole social media side of things is just a bit vain and pretentious and all the rest of it. If that's your viewpoint, then fuck it, don't do it. Don't put yourself through it. Like, it just seems pointless in terms of why you would have to feel like you're keeping up appearances to make, like, if someone else is doing it. If you're looking at me, let's say, and going, I need to do what Frank's doing, like, would really look up to him, and like, I think I don't want to get behind the camera, but you try it and then you're like, I don't enjoy this at all. It might come as a labor of love over time, maybe, but if you don't enjoy it and you keep doing it a few times and you're just like, you know what, fuck this shit, and it doesn't work, like, what the hell's the point?
There's no point. Absolutely not. And it'll be, I mean, if you're uncomfortable doing something, you're not gonna put time and effort into excelling in that type of area. So
that's a caveat. But
play to your strengths.
But what I would say as well to it, though, the advantage of doing it is that you then get more comfortable in your own skin to then it translates into client conversations. So if you can talk to a camera when no one else is there and do it walking down the busy street of a metropolitan Sydney like I've done before, you get over your like self-confidence kind of like self-confidence isn't the word. Reflecting sort of thoughts of either I'm ugly or I sound bad. Like I sound like Ray Romano.
Is my beard untidy?
Is my beard untidy? Do I look like? Do I sound like? Is what I'm saying making sense? You're just there to do it and put something out there and contribute to what it is you're doing. You don't have to be the biggest doyen thought leader of all time or anything like that. You just need to put something out there and enjoy it. And people, if you're genuine about it and you fuck up after fuck up after fuck up after fuck up with your takes of video footage, like I've seen people do bloopers and the amount of bloopers they've done. I'm like, I am with you there. Like the amount of bloopers that I have done over the time to get to where I am now is ridiculous. I've wasted hours.
The bloopers account for 90% of the content you've created, and the 10% what you put out.
Yes. So in terms of content, I would say give it a go and see what you think it is. It will give you more confidence, I think, especially when you are dealing with clients. And the other trade-off is that the client sees who you are. If you put yourself out, like, you're starting to put some photos into your content, which is great. And if you put...
Slowly.
Slowly. And it's slowly, but surely, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't posting my own face. I didn't want it to be about me or anything like that.
It's all to do with positioning as well, yeah.
Yeah, and then I kind of realised people buy from people, people that they know, like, and trust. If I can give some sort of semblance of who I am and all that kind of stuff.
You are the bona fide mascot of G'day Frank. The business, your name is in the title.
Yeah, I know. And it was just sort of stupid that I thought it was going to be something else.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah.
It's a point of difference.
Yeah. So how are you feeling now after that chat about how you go about it going forward?
How I go about my own content? Look, I think I still need to make my content very client-centric, just because, I mean, I can and this is probably key, I can rationalize my client-focused content to a design community. I can't rationalize a design-focused content to my clients.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, moving forward, I think it's really cool. There's definitely different and interesting ways to share your own position on branding and the impact of branding. Something I am considering is definitely sharing more client work. Yeah. I feel like there needs to be a healthy balance of putting your thoughts out there, but also putting the work of your hands out there.
Yeah. Which is, I think, a lot of the Aussie design community that I'm following here on G'day Design Life, they excel at that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm wow, this is some really fucking good work.
Some of the stuff you've been sharing on the page, I've just I've glanced at it and just instantly followed the person, just like, yo, you are just...
Yeah, and they're killing it. Yeah. Whereas the wider design community that has some influence stuff, I don't see your work, and it's just like, oh, I just bumped the mic, sorry. And... I mean, half the time I can't post my work because the clients that I work with, it's all confidential as well. So that's why I create different kind of content to have some substance there. So yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22 trade-off that I have to sort of work with. And I think there'll be a lot of people like that as well.
100%.
Anyway, mate, we'll leave it there. So thank you very much, guys, for listening here on the podcast, either on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or YouTube or IGTV when we put this up. It's everywhere, isn't it? It's crazy, man.
How long does it take you just to upload this on all the platforms?
Well, good thing with a podcast, if you guys ever look at doing a podcast, you only have to put the podcast up one place, and then it just automatically goes to all these places, which is good. So just set and forget kind of stuff. Whereas YouTube and IGTV, they take forever. Anyway,
and one thing I want to say before we go, for everyone that's enjoying the Two Red Chairs podcast, man, before you started your own podcast, how many times have you done it?
What do you mean by?
How many times have you done a podcast before you started doing your podcast?
I was on, I think, two people's podcasts.
Two people's podcasts, and that was all? There you go. Not a lot of experience, but you just gave it a go.
Now I've got two.
Now you've got two podcasts.
And it's listened around the world. It's fucking amazing.
It's awesome. Thanks, Frank.
Yeah, no worries, guys.
Cheers, mate.
So catch us in the next episode. I'm going to have Shane back, and we're going to talk some more stuff. We have a good banter here. He's an Aussie Sydney designer, so stay tuned for that one. Anyways, we'll see you in the next episode. Later.